If you are a new parent and your baby has started staring at you like this, long, quiet, unblinking, the kind of stare that makes the room feel still, I need you to stop scrolling and listen to me for the next few minutes. Your baby is looking at you right now, not glancing, not scanning, looking. Their eyes are locked on your face, tracking the corner of your mouth, the space between your eyebrows, the small movement when you blink. You smile, they keep looking. You look away for a second and look back, and they are still there, waiting. You have probably laughed it off. You have probably wondered quietly whether you should. Researchers who have spent decades on this exact stare would tell you it is neither of those things. What looks like your baby zoning out is one of the most closely studied behaviors in child development, and the real answer is not the one you would guess. Teams of researchers have spent years, in some cases decades, on exactly what your baby is doing when they stare. The answer reaches into how they learn to feel safe, how they learn to connect, and how they will one day trust a room. The common sense theory of the baby stare, the one most of us have thought at least once, goes like this. Babies sleep most of the day. Their movements are uncoordinated. They cannot yet talk, and their eyes are still learning to focus. So when they lock onto your face for long, quiet stretches, the natural explanation is that they are simply zoning out. Their brain is idling. The eyes are pointed at you because you happen to be there. If you have ever thought this, it makes perfect sense. Everything you can see about your baby seems to support it. But that theory collapses the moment you actually test it. In 1961, a researcher named Robert Fance at Case Western Reserve University published a study in the journal Child Development that changed how anyone was allowed to talk about baby vision again. He built a little viewing box with two pictures side by side, held newborns in front of it, some only a week old, and looked through a peephole to time exactly where their eyes went. One picture was a plain shape. The other was a simple pattern that looked roughly like a face, 2 dots for eyes, 1 for a mouth. If the stare were empty, both should get the same time. They did not. The babies looked longer again and again at the face. Even at a week old, they were choosing. I am Naomi. I ran a small Japanese-style home daycare out of my kitchen for 20 years, and I started reading this research the year one of my daycare babies stared at me for 6 months in a way I could not explain. And it gets stranger the deeper the researchers went. Near the end of this video, I am going to walk you through one experiment, a famous one, argued about for 50 years, that will change how you sit with your baby on an ordinary afternoon. But first, the smaller studies, because they are the ones that break the mystery open. The first real crack in the old explanation came from a lab in England, where a team of researchers decided to ask a smaller and more precise question about what your baby's eyes actually prefer. Researchers at a university in England ran a study on newborns, babies only 2 to 5 days old, that gets at something Fance missed. They gathered photographs of the same face, taken twice. In the first photograph, the person in the picture was looking straight at the camera, direct gaze. In the second, the exact same face, same lighting, same size, same brightness, but the eyes were now looking off to the side. Everything about the two pictures was matched, except where the eyes pointed. Then they held the pictures up in front of newborns, sometimes only 2 days old, and timed how long each baby looked at each face. They ran it in a hospital nursery, quiet room, no other stimulation, one baby at a time. They did it dozens of times. The newborns, 2 days old, 3 days old, looked significantly longer at the face whose eyes were pointed at them. Not the brighter picture, not the more colorful one, the one that was looking back. They checked again, same result. Another team of researchers following this thread, then looked at what young babies do when a stimulus grabs them. They found that under about 4 months of age, babies often cannot pull their eyes away once they lock on. Their attention brakes are still installing. Put those two findings together and you get something specific about the stare that is happening in your house right now. Your baby is not staring at your face because your face happens to be there. They are staring because you are looking back. And once they lock on, their brain does not yet have the ability to easily let go. Tonight, when you change your baby on the changing table and your face is right there, 12 inches above theirs, and their eyes lock onto yours, that stare is not accidental. Your baby is preferring you. They are picking your eyes out of the whole room and holding on because your eyes are pointed at theirs and because a 2-day-old already knows the difference. Yuto did this to Kenji for a full month when Yuto was tiny. Kenji would walk into the room and Yuto's whole body would freeze and his eyes would go so wide I thought something was wrong. I called it the freeze. I misread it for weeks. Kenji was doing nothing special. He was just the face that looked back. Your baby is not staring at you the way a cat stares at a lamp. They are staring at you the way a person stares at another person. Your baby is not watching your face. Your baby is reading it, letter by letter, and they cannot yet look away. But if your baby's stare is a reading, then the next question researchers asked is what the reading is actually for. Because a study out of a large Midwestern university found something even stranger. Researchers at a large Midwestern university in the late 1980s designed a study that used the baby stare as a measuring instrument, which is a strange sentence. Let me explain. They showed babies, some as young as 4 or 5 months old, a little puppet show. It was very simple. A small solid box sat on a table. A screen was lifted up in front of the box, hiding it. Then the screen rotated backwards, tipping away from the baby, like a drawbridge going down. In one version, the screen stopped where the hidden box should be, physics behaving. In the other version, and this is where it gets clever, the researchers secretly removed the box behind the screen, and the screen rotated all the way through as if the box had vanished. Physics broken. Then they timed how long the baby stared. The baby stared significantly longer at the impossible event. Not glanced, stared. Their eyes stayed on the place where the box should have been, as if their whole small system was trying to reconcile something that had just failed to make sense. Researchers described this carefully. They found an association between longer looking and violated expectations. And the same lab that started this whole story had already shown that babies stare longer at anything that looks organized, patterned, face-like, anything with structure the brain wants to make sense of. Put those together and something clicks into place. Your baby's stare is not a screensaver, it is a duration meter. It gets longer when the world does something your baby did not expect. It is almost certainly happening at your table too. Tomorrow morning at breakfast, watch this. Your baby, in the high chair, will pick up a spoon. They will hold it out over the edge of the tray. They will look at you. Then they will drop it. And they will stare, long, quiet, focused, at the exact spot where the spoon just was. You have probably called it a game, their 900th game of the week. Researchers would call it something else. Your baby is running an experiment. They dropped the spoon. It went down. They want to know if this always happens. Are there exceptions? Their stare is the moment they are checking the math. This is not you being teased by a small tyrant. This is a small person building the concept of gravity in your kitchen, one spoon at a time, and you happen to be the assistant who returns the equipment. That little stare held 1 second longer than it should be is a scientist checking the math of the world. And that was only the first thing they measured. We are almost at the experiment I told you about, the one researchers still argue over. But first, one more study. Researchers at a university in the Northeast in 1985 ran a study that turned the baby stare into something even bigger than a duration meter. They built a special table. Half of it was a normal solid surface with a patterned cloth right under a glass top. The other half had the same cloth, but the researchers had dropped it 4 feet down. So from above, it looked like a sudden cliff, even though the glass ran across the whole thing. Perfectly safe. Then they brought in 1-year-olds and put each baby on the safe side. The baby's mother stood on the far side of the apparent drop, calling the baby over. The researchers gave the mothers a specific instruction. On some trials, smile, be happy. On other trials, look afraid. Same mother, same room, same table. Only the face changed. The baby would crawl to the edge, look down at what looked like a drop, and then look up. Every single time. They would stop and stare at their mother's face. When mothers smiled, most babies crossed the apparent cliff. When mothers looked afraid, most babies stopped. They did not cross. Same drop, same baby, same table. The only thing that changed was what the mother's face said. Researchers coined a phrase for this: social referencing. Your baby, when something is unfamiliar, will freeze and stare at your face to find out whether the situation is safe. And a whole tradition of research has since found this happens all day in tiny ways, not just on a fake cliff. Your baby is checking your face for weather, and the weather they read there tells them whether to move forward or stop. This weekend, if you take your baby to a friend's house for the first time, watch what happens at the doorway. Your baby will pause. They will not look at the new room. They will look at you. They will stare at your face for a full second, sometimes 2, and then their body will do whatever your face told them to do. I had a little girl at Sakura House who did this every single morning at drop-off for 3 months. She would stop in my hallway, turn around, and stare up at her mother's face like she was reading a forecast. If her mother looked calm, she came in. If her mother looked worried, she cried. I used to gently ask the moms to give me a warm face at the door, not because I was being sentimental, because their daughter was reading them like a book, and the book was writing her whole morning. You are not just their parent standing in a doorway, you are their weather report, and they are checking the sky every few seconds. So your baby's stare picks you out. It measures the world. It reads your face for safety. But researchers wanted to know something harder. What is your baby actually trying to do with the stare? A large research team in Germany spent years watching babies and adults interact frame by frame in a very specific setup. They would seat a baby, usually somewhere between 9 and 18 months, across from an adult. The adult would first get the baby's attention, eye contact, a smile. Then the adult would suddenly turn their head and look at an object across the room, a toy on a shelf, a picture on the wall. Nothing dramatic, just a shift of gaze. Cameras recorded every micro-movement of the baby's eyes. The researchers were watching for one specific thing. Would the baby follow the adult's gaze to the object? And this is the key part. Would the baby then look back at the adult and back at the object and back at the adult, alternating, sharing the moment? By the end of the first year, most babies did exactly that. They followed the adult's gaze. They found the object. Then they looked back at the adult's face, then the object, then back again. Researchers called this joint attention. It is the first form of a conversation your baby ever has. Another group of researchers in Israel took this further. They filmed mothers and babies playing face-to-face and measured how synchronized their looks and expressions were. They associated higher synchrony, more of that back and forth stare, with stronger bonding markers, including hormonal ones connected to attachment. They were careful not to say the stare caused any of it, but the pattern was clear. The staring back and forth, the little serve and return, was linked to something the body was quietly building. Later today, when you walk your baby past a dog on the sidewalk, watch. Your baby's stroller will slow. They will look at the dog, then they will look up at you, then back at the dog, then back at you. You have probably thought they wanted you to see. That is exactly right, and it is bigger than you thought. They are inviting you into a shared world. It is the beginning of every conversation they will ever have. May did this to me last week on my kitchen floor. I was chopping onions. She was on the mat with her blocks. She picked up a red one, looked at it, looked up at me, waited until I said red, and then looked at the block again and then back at me. 2 seconds, nothing to a stranger, everything to a grandmother who spent 20 years watching this. The stare is not the message. The stare is the invitation. Your baby is saying, "Come see what I see." So we know what your baby's stare is doing. We know what it wants, which means we are finally ready for the experiment I have been holding back, the one that shows what happens when the stare is not answered. In 1978, a researcher named Edward Tronick at Harvard Medical School published the results of an experiment that has been argued about, replicated, and taught in every developmental psychology class for almost 50 years. The setup is deceptively simple. You bring a mother and her baby, usually between 2 and 9 months old, into a small room. You sit them facing each other, and you tell the mother the experiment will happen in 3 phases. Phase 1, play with your baby normally. Phase 2, when I signal you, do one thing, freeze your face. Phase 3, when I signal again, go back to normal. Then you turn on the cameras. Phase 1, the mother leans in, she smiles, she talks to the baby in that high, sing-song voice we all use without knowing we use it. The baby responds. The baby stares up at her face and smiles back. The baby coos. The baby's small hands open and close. The mother mirrors it. The baby mirrors her mirroring. It is the most ordinary thing in the world, and researchers have spent decades trying to describe how beautiful it is on tape. Serve, return, serve, return. Then the signal comes. The mother stops. Her face goes still. She keeps looking straight at the baby. She does not smile. She does not talk. She does not respond. Everything is there except the response. The baby stares. At first, the baby thinks it is a game. The baby smiles bigger, reaches out, vocalizes louder, kicks a little. The baby is trying to bring her back. Nothing works. The stare intensifies. The baby's face begins to change. The corners of the mouth pull down. The baby looks away, then looks back, checking, hoping the face has come back. It has not. Within a minute, sometimes less, the baby begins to lose regulation. Some babies cry, some arch away, some pull at their own clothes, put a hand in their mouth, try to self-soothe. All of them on the tapes look like small people who have run out of options. The experiment was designed carefully, and ethics boards have debated it for decades because of the brief, visible distress it causes. The researchers always kept the still face phase extremely short, and they built in an immediate recovery. Then the second signal. The mother comes back. She smiles. She says the baby's name. She reaches out. Within seconds, the baby recovers. The stare returns. The smile returns. Researchers built the recovery phase into the experiment on purpose, and they have watched it happen thousands of times. Every session ends with the mother back, the baby comforted, and the connection reformed. The distress is brief by design, and the repair is immediate. Here is what Tronic's work revealed, and here is why it changed everything. Your baby's stare is not a stare at you. It is a stare with you. It is one half of an exchange that your baby's whole, small nervous system expects. When the exchange stops, even for a minute, even when your face is still visibly right there, your baby knows, and they work to bring it back. Tomorrow morning, when your baby wakes up and looks for you across the crib, remember this. I had a boy at Sakura House who used to walk into my kitchen every morning and stand in the doorway and stare at me until I turned around. His mother thought he was being shy. He was serving. He needed the return. Once I gave it, his whole day started. There is one more thing the research says about the baby stare, and I would rather you hear it from me, calmly, than from a frightening thumbnail at midnight. Researchers who study the baby stare also pay attention to its absence. When a baby consistently, across settings and across many months, does not seek out eye contact, does not look up to check your face, does not follow your gaze, does not offer that back and forth serve and return we just talked about, that is one of the early patterns researchers associate with atypical development. Not a verdict, not a label, a pattern they watch. And here is the part the scary versions leave out. This does not mean something is wrong. One quiet afternoon means nothing. One shy morning means nothing. Some babies stare intensely. Some are dreamier. Some go through weeks where they seem to look at everything except your face and then come back around. Children are wildly different from each other, and every child develops on their own timeline. What the research actually says is gentler than the worry. Noticing early simply gives a family options early. You have been reading your baby since their first hour on this earth. You are a better instrument than any checklist and any video, including mine. If something has felt off for weeks, not from one video but from your own watching, trust that and bring it to your pediatrician. That is a pediatrician question, and I can only tell you what we did at Sakura House. I am not a doctor. I just spent 20 years with other people's children in my kitchen, and that is exactly why I will not diagnose anyone's child from a screen. So come back to the couch. Your baby is on the blanket beside you. They are staring at your face, quiet, unblinking, the same stare that started this video. You now know they are reading you. You now know they cannot yet look away. You now know they are checking the sky, the same small scene. Nothing about it is small anymore, because the baby stare was never a blank screen. It is a conversation your baby started before they had the words. It is a scientist checking gravity. It is a small person building the concept of you, one long look at a time. That long, quiet look is your baby building you, in your kitchen, on your couch for free. My grandmother in Japan would sit with a baby the way you watch weather, unhurried, expecting nothing, missing nothing. And American parents do something I always loved and never quite mastered. You narrate your whole day out loud to your baby. Both are answers to the same stare. Both work. The research finally gave me the words for what we were all doing. Was there a moment when your baby stared at you and you could not shake the feeling they were saying something? Tell me about it in the comments. Tell me how old they were and where you were. I read every one of them. Every week, I take one strange thing babies and small children do, and I read the research that finally explains what I watched for 20 years. If you want that in your week, subscribe. Next week, I want to talk about something almost every parent has wondered. Why does your toddler insist on the same book every single night for months? The explanation is not the one you would guess. The more we understand them, the calmer it gets. I will see you next week.